Are INFJs self-aware? This is something I see frequently online in typology circles. I think the confusion comes in because we are very aware of other people's feelings and emotions. People are puzzles to us. We can feel what they're feeling. If I meet somebody, I can sense a distress or a confusion or a joyfulness in them. I can feel what they're feeling, and then the puzzle becomes trying to figure out, why are they feeling this way? Why are they having these emotions? And then I start taking the pieces apart and trying to make them fit and put them together as I solve this person. And this is what I like to do on a greater level, looking at humanity as a whole, and I love looking at the problems that plague humankind and using my mind to see what patterns I have noticed in behaviors and trying to figure out how to solve them logically. That's what an INFJ is drawn to do, whether you know it or not. And I hear people say that INFJs are self-aware, but what I think it just means is that we are aware of our emotions. I know I have emotions, I know I have feelings, but I have great difficulty in making sense of them. Self-aware means that you are consciously looking to understand why you are feeling a certain way. And for an INFJ, especially earlier in life, it doesn't rank up there on the priority list to figure out yourself, because truly, other people are so much more interesting. And it's not a self-deprecating statement to say that I don't find myself interesting, because I really did not for a long time. I found myself to be very confusing, and I didn't want to deal with myself. I was more interested in other people, their emotions and feelings. And I've said this before, it was for a reason, because I think in some way I had to unlock other people's puzzle pieces, so eventually one day, when I became self-aware, I could unlock my own. Because to be honest, solving the puzzle of myself has been one of the greatest challenges I've had to face in my life. But I'm getting ahead of myself. So, for an INFJ, you are aware of your own emotions. Ask yourself this today or this week when you're feeling intense happiness or sadness or loneliness or anger or confusion. Ask yourself, why am I feeling this way? Chances are you're going to be confused. You won't know why you're feeling this way. And this is what makes it difficult, because a lot of times you're out there in the general public and you're picking up on others' feelings and emotions, and it does affect you. But when you're out there among people, you feel their feelings. So then it's kind of like, it's this happiness. Is it something I'm feeling right now? Or is it just because I was around a group of people who are genuinely happy? Is this anger right now something that I'm feeling? Or is it coming from someone else? So that's the first thing you have to pick through and ask yourself, are these my emotions or just someone else's that I'm feeling? So that's the first step. Ask yourself, why am I feeling sad right now? What's the reason for this? I can sit down and feel sad and cry my eyes out and not really know why I'm feeling this way. I have to dig deep and I have to think, what is making me feel this way? The other morning, for example, I was going somewhere and I was feeling anxious. And I thought to myself, there's no reason right now why you should be anxious. You know, it wasn't like some kind of scary doctor's appointment or anything like that. I was just running some errands, yet I had anxiety. And it was an interesting exercise for me because I actually spent some time thinking about it, asking myself, why am I being anxious right now? And I was able to figure it out, but it took time. And I know this is really funny for people to hear this, but it's true. And I know that there are those of you out there who understand what I'm saying. And I realized that my anxiety was for several reasons, but I was able to pinpoint them. And I discovered that there were actually 3 reasons why I was feeling particularly anxious that morning. But it took a while. You know, it wasn't like I could just say, why are you anxious? And I knew immediately. You know, that wasn't the case. But now I know to ask myself the question. In the past, I would have just been anxious, and I wouldn't even have thought to turn the light on inside and search myself because I wasn't self-aware. In other words, the answer to that question wasn't important. It was more about the feeling. It was more about the emotion of anxiety. I found myself confusing, and in some cases I didn't want to figure myself out because I thought that I couldn't. So I think INFJs are not very self-aware, especially in younger years. And there's a reason for this. That's the nature of FE, to be others aware. The nature of FI is to be self-aware. The irony in this is that when you finally understand the nature of FE, when you finally understand the fact that you are others aware, is when you start to become more self-aware. This sounds confusing, but I'll take it a step further. When you realize that you focus on others to your own detriment, that's when you start to become self-aware. When you start considering yourself as having some sort of importance, then you become self-aware. I would argue that an INFJ does not have the self-awareness early in life, and I would say that's for a reason. An INFJ is driven to look outside of oneself for a purpose. Someone like an ESFJ, for instance, and my mother was an ESFJ, they are others-focused. And it's for a purpose, and that purpose is to nurture others, to take care of others. And that's the reason, which is the nature of the FE. But for the INFJ, the nature of the FE is to understand people. That's really what it is ultimately. And that's why we go outside of ourselves. That's why we extrovert our feeling, so that we can understand people. We can understand, or we want to understand, how they act and why they act the way they do. Everything people. And that's the reason for it for us. I think it's a driving force for us. When we're younger, we are obsessed with people. In some cases, I don't know that we even really know that. I think we do in some ways, but that's kind of the beauty of it in a way. And I'm not saying that knowledge of typology stuff isn't a good thing younger in life, because I think it depends on who you are. But a part of me wonders if it is, because it's like this pure obsession about people is what gets you out there, and it's what gets you studying people and listening to people and listening to them and observing them and all the things that have to do with human beings. And if you get too caught up in typology theory, particularly as an INFJ at a young age, it could prevent you from going out there in the world and doing what you need to do. For me, I wasn't trying to figure out why I am like this. In some ways, I think I did. My broader questions when I was young were about the nature of reality. Like, why am I here? Why am I who I am and not someone else? Things like that. It's kind of like a purpose sort of thing. But it was more about feeling the feelings in my younger years. I wanted to feel all the feelings. I wanted to soak myself in the feelings, whether they were love feelings or sad feelings or happy feelings. I wanted to soak myself in them all. But I was never reflective and asking myself questions like, what do I value in life? What is important to me in life? What do I believe about such and such a thing? In fact, those kinds of questions were scary to me earlier in life. It's kind of like, again, it's like a two-edged sword. You get out there and you're observing all these people, and it's the nature of the beast. You want to learn all about people, but you're also looking to find what you feel and think about things. You're looking to others to see what fits. It's like a trying on for size. I was a little drama queen as a child. I remember watching TV shows as a child and acting like a certain person, assuming that person's identity, because I was trying to find something in that. And people would say, that's fake. But it wasn't. It was real. I had to do it to try to figure myself out. What do I think about this? Let me try this other person on. Let me see how comfortable I feel being this other person. Does this fit me? Can I wear this other person? And it's almost like you decide, yes, this bit fits. And so then you chisel off the rest of that person and you keep the piece that fits. And you go to the next person and start the process all over again. And I think that's how you go through early life this way, trying to figure it all out. So to say that the INFJ type is self-aware is a misnomer. It takes a long time for us to come to what is self-awareness. But it is necessary to come to a place in life to understand oneself. It's important to know what you value, and it's important to reach a place in life where you can speak about your beliefs and opinions on things. I just think that takes time. And that's not necessarily unusual for most people, because for most, it takes them a while to learn what they really think about things. And you can change your thoughts and hone your thoughts as you go through life. I especially see it with younger INFJs, and upon reflection, it existed in myself as well. There's a blindness there. I had it too. there is this lack of spotting hypocrisy in ourselves. We can so easily spot it in other people, but we don't see it in ourselves. And this is not self-awareness at all. And we spend so much of our time focusing on other people. Other people are interesting. Other people are fascinating. And when you spend so much of your time focusing on others, you do not have time or make it a priority to focus on yourself. Focusing on others is a very good thing. We're driven to do that. Like I said before, we have to look at others. We have to study people. And as I've said before, there are many reasons for this. But the problem comes when you don't spend any time looking internally. There has to be a balance. If you spend most of your time looking at others, then you are never going to be self-aware, and you're never going to know what you think or feel about things. And I think this is why we are so dodgy in our lives. And you know what I mean by that. When I finally find somebody who is interested in what I have to say, then all of a sudden I get dodgy. You remember that old game we used to play in elementary school called dodgeball? Someone would throw the ball at you and you'd have to avoid the ball and you didn't want the ball to hit you. Well, that's how I feel and that's how I felt in life. That's what I did. I was playing dodgeball with that person. Even though a part of me was thrilled that they were asking personal questions, I was also terrified. I didn't know how to answer the questions. I knew it required some self-reflection that I wasn't capable of, or I felt vulnerable in trying to express what I thought about it, because I knew it might come out wrong or it might come out sloppy. Trying to extrovert my thinking can be very difficult for me. And that's one of the reasons I was dodgy in my younger years. I didn't know what I thought or felt about something, and even though maybe I did know what I thought or felt, I didn't know how to communicate that. And there's also the other element of that, being more of a people pleaser. What if I disagreed with them? What if I had to disagree with them? And in my younger years, I was afraid to do that. I was afraid to disagree with people. I would agree with them just to keep the peace. And I really hated myself for it. I think this is why we are dodgy in our lives, because we are avoiding personal questions for different reasons. It's difficult to navigate our inner world. I've had people ask me questions, and it actually shocks me that I can't answer them. I was talking to someone that I love, and this was recently, and I mentioned my favorite tree. And he asked me why it was my favorite tree. And I had no idea. It was the silliest thing in the world, but I had no idea. Why was this tree my favorite tree? I was completely stumped, and I almost didn't know what to say. And he said, well, do you want me to tell you why it's your favorite? And I said, sure, why not? Can you really do that? And he did. He told me why it was my favorite tree. He gave me many reasons, and I was like, yes, exactly. But it's a strange place to find yourself when you state you like something, but you can't identify or explain why you like it. And I find this happening to myself a lot with people I love, where it's like hitting a wall and I have no idea. I don't know what keys to use to unlock it. And thus begins the process. And this brings me to my next point. You need others in your life to help you become self-aware. I think we can do it alone, but not exclusively. I don't believe we can do it without people in our lives who love us. We have to find people who see us. I've said this before here, but we have to find people we are willing to be honest and real with. We have to say, I don't know what I think about this. Can you please help me? Not so they can tell us what to think, but that they can give us a place to think. We need to be able to have people in our lives like this. People who can see us and figure us out, and who gently question us from a place of understanding, and who are patient and willing to work with us in this way. And when we find those people, that's when we can start to figure out the puzzle of ourselves, because they force the self-examination we must do. And truth be told, I believe as we mature and develop, we want to do it. For me, I know I wanted to do it because I knew there was something to it. If you're looking for something, there's a reason you're looking for it. And I was looking for myself, and there was a reason I was looking for her. I needed to find her. So that was a turning point in my life. I tried by myself. I journaled, and I recorded myself, and I took walks, and I talked to myself, and I did get somewhere. It's not like you can't do it by yourself. I think you can in part. But you need others in your life to help you. And that requires a lot of vulnerability on our parts, because you have to let the guard down, you have to let the walls down, and you have to let them see inside, and you have to let them know you're confused. You have to let them see that confusion in a way, and you can't feel silly for it. I remember initially I felt completely stupid. I truly did. The first time I let someone look into me, I felt so dumb. You know, it's like giving someone a gift and you have absolutely no idea what's inside. Have you ever done that? I've done that before in the past. I wrapped gifts really far ahead of time and I didn't write it down. I didn't know what I'd wrapped up. So I did that one year. I wrapped up a Christmas gift and I got it out. I remember staring at the box and staring at the person's name on the tag, and I thought, what in the world is in this package? And I puzzled over it for a long time. I could not for the life of me remember what was in there. And I was the one who had wrapped it up. You know, that's kind of how it is. I give the gift of myself to someone. I'm entering into this relationship with someone. I've chosen that person for whatever reason, and then they want to unwrap me and learn more about me, and I have no idea what's inside. What is in my box? What's in my package? I have no idea. So it makes you feel stupid, truly. And I don't know that this is always the case, but for me, I find that those who have helped me learn the most about myself are naturally self-aware people. And it does feel stupid when they are able to understand themselves so easily, and yet they ask me, why don't you know this thing about yourself? And I feel so dumb. There's a vulnerability there, but at the same time, you have to go through that and experience that in order to find out who you are. You kind of have to lay yourself bare like that before the other person. And if you have chosen well, they will help you figure it out. They're going to ask the right questions. They're going to be curious. We think there's nothing there. You know, what's in the package? We don't know. But they actually see what's in us. That loved one already actually in some ways has figured us out. You know, like my loved ones, they figured me out a bit, enough to know that they love who I am and they want to help me find who I am. They kind of already see me when I don't see myself, but they see me. And even though I feel stupid, it's just because I haven't seen myself yet, but they have already seen me. And that's what you need, because they really will help. You know, like they help me unfold. They help me reveal myself to myself so I can start to understand who I am. And that has been key for me, you know, finding people who can help me understand who I am. So I do think you need both critical self-examination and others in your life. But it has to start with you. You have to recognize the need to be self-aware. You have to be honest with yourself one day. You know, there comes a time when you say, I don't know who I am. I just don't know, but I want to know because I think there's something there. I must know who I am. I am wondering about myself for a reason. And so the search begins. And I know what the reason is. The reason is so you can find your greater purpose in life. And I don't think you can discover that in a wholly satisfactory way unless you have become self-aware. And I'm not saying you're not living out your purpose in life before this happens, because you are. You are helping people. You are trying to make people better. You are trying to solve problems. But there's a lack of self-awareness. You're doing it, but you don't necessarily understand that you're doing it. You do, but it's kind of on a more shallow sort of level. And when you finally discover who you are, and you recognize the need to be self-aware, then that's when you can find true ultimate satisfaction in your purpose or your life's calling or whatever you want to call it. Because then all the pieces start to click then. Then you're like, yes, I know why I did this in the past. I know why I acted in that way. I know why I chose this course of action. I know why I sought those experiences. And then it starts unfolding for you in rapid fire succession, and the pieces start coming together, and then you have a clear picture of why you did what you did. In other words, you finally proved it to yourself. And I've talked about this in other videos as well, how our thought process works. Well, you've proved it to yourself, you've proved why you've lived your life the way you have, and now you can go forward with purpose and direction because you've finally made sense of all that. And now you have a cleared path. So that's the whole purpose in becoming self-aware. And that's when you can start doing the big things in life. That's when you can start moving forward in a big way because you finally understand the purpose in it.